All righty. Okay. Day 3, the last day. I really think I need to run this more frequently, more than once a year. Yeah. Maybe like twice a year, 3 times a year, quarterly. I don't know.
Quarterly.
Maybe quarterly. I might do quarterly because that sounds fun. And like, I'll be honest, I was a little nervous to run this again because I was like, but I already did it. People are going to be bored. But every time I run it, it's going to have something a little bit different in it. Like it's going to be different for all of us because we're different.
And we all have different new traumas that have arisen last few months.
Yes, accurate. Same. So yes, I will have to do that. Okay, so once again, for anyone watching the replay, which it sounds like will be quite a few people this time, act as if you are joining this live with me right now, because you basically are. Because what is time? Time is just a concept. Time is but a concept. So let's do a quick recap, shall we? Let's see if my arrows will work today. Oh, they're working today. Why were they not working yesterday? That's weird. Anyways, once again, come say hi on Instagram because it's been fun seeing people posting over there. And I will say it again, at least this is how it is for me. Maybe it's just a me thing, but I like when I share the things that I'm learning, it helps me integrate them and embody them more quickly and more efficiently. And it helps me understand them better. That's something that I learned about myself in college. Like when I was learning something, if I taught it or shared it in some way, whether it was to my roommates or my fellow classmates, I understood that thing so much better. So that's why I put this here. It's not just a vanity thing, I promise. All right, so yesterday was a doozy. Holy Moses. I mean, I have still been kind of reeling from it, and it wasn't new information for me, but I've still been just like, oh, yeah, that was a lot of good things that I needed to review for sure. So yesterday we talked about our spiritual health, right? So spirituality, meaning that is a sense of connection with something bigger than ourselves. That's all spirituality means. So you get to explore more and more what that gets to feel like for you, what your relationship with your spiritual self gets to be, et cetera, et cetera. We went through all the planetary body themes, which was so cool. And then you have access to that gate activation guide if you signed up via email. If you have not received your gate activation guide, please let me know so I can make sure that you have it, because even if you don't end up getting to finish that replay or whatnot, having that guide is going to give you so much expansion. It's going to give you so much guidance on who you are and who you get to be and who you like, validate your desires as well. It's going to validate your desires and your challenges. We also went over our awareness of our energy, which we're going to increase today, actually, because everything is all connected, right? So today, healing the physical self, which it's kind of, I just kind of realized this. It's kind of funny that I have this as the last day because I started off as a health coach. Like I started off helping people with their physical bodies. And that's how all of this started, was in my dance education with my physical body, and then it expanded into everything else. So I kind of like that I'm tying up the loose ends by ending with the physical self today. So did you know that your body is constantly sending you information and messages, like 24/7? Your body is always giving you messages, giving you information. It's never not speaking to you. So, and again, if you're watching the replay, oh, there's someone here on Facebook who's on Facebook, say hi. Or if you're shy, that's also fine too. But leave in the comments, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you feel like you listen to your body at this time? In fact, I'm going to think for myself as well.
Scale of what?
1 to 10. So like 1 being I don't listen, I don't pay attention to messages from my body at all, and 10 being like I'm like a pro master, I'm constantly listening to my body. 8. That's funny. That's what I was going to say, actually. I'm sisters. And I also want y'all to know, whatever number you put here, it doesn't mean anything. So if you put like a 2, it doesn't mean anything. It's just where you are. It's just an indicator. We're just taking inventory. That's all we're doing right now. We're just taking inventory as information as we move throughout the rest of this lesson today, okay? So just keep that in mind. And because what we're going to do now is we're going to help you take that number, and if you want to adjust it, if you want to increase it or anything, regardless, I'm going to help you learn how to listen to those messages from your body with curiosity and creativity. Those are two of my very, very favorite states of being to encourage my clients to be in, because when we're operating, okay, sounds good, sister. Bye. When we're operating from a place of curiosity and creativity, there is zero room for shame or judgment. And if you're familiar with like the, it's like a thermostat. If you've ever seen that image, let me know if you want to see it and I can share it in the group. There's like an image where there's like a thermostat of how our emotions vibrate, because each emotional state has its own frequency. Some are low, some are high. The lower ones tend to not feel very good and tend to cause more dis-ease within the body. And the higher ones create more healing and are more pleasurable to experience, right? Shame is at the very bottom. Shame is the lowest vibrational frequency of the emotional spectrum. It can cause the most damage. It can wreak the most havoc, right? And it's the most unpleasant feeling there can be, okay? Hence why we want to shift into curiosity and creativity instead. So again, leave a comment below. How about this? Leave a 1 if you've ever criticized or judged your physical body. I'm putting a 1 because I definitely have criticized my own body. I mean, my gosh, I just had a baby. So I have had to be very intentional about the way that I look at and think about and talk about my body, because I've definitely said things about my body that are not nice at all. So there's no, I'm not judging any of you if you're putting a 1 there, is what I'm saying. In fact, if you're not relating to this at all, I want to know your secrets, because every single human being who I've ever talked to has had some kind of moment in their life where they have criticized their own body. It is normal. And just because it's normal does not mean that we need to remain there. Okay. All right. And then now on the flip side of things, drop a 2 in the comments if you have ever loved your physical body or been grateful for your physical body. I'm also putting a 2 there because, again, I just had a baby. My body did that. Holy cow. I pushed a whole human out of my body. In fact, I've done that 3 times. That's wild, right? So we can be both. All right. And I'm going to talk about that in a second, actually. So I'm going to try not to get too ahead of myself. Let me know if you have ever seen this quote floating around the internet. In fact, I'm pretty sure like 5 years ago or something, I shared this on my own page. Like I thought that this was a really good inspirational quote. And while I get the point that's trying to make, it's not the best. So let me just read it for you, for those who are going to be listening on the podcast. The saying is, you have a body. You are not your body. You also have toes. You are not toes. So yeah, I don't love that saying. I used to love it, but I know better now. And because now I know better, I know that this is not a helpful saying. Hi, Bree. Because when we think that we are not our body, that disconnects us from a very integral piece of who we are. Okay, so while, yeah, it's funny, and I'm all about the funny sayings and memes. I am a huge fan of memes. Feel free to share all the memes with me ever, because I love them. Hi, sorry, I'm late, still doing some work stuff. Totally fine, Bree, totally fine. In fact, I've been thinking about you today with the stuff that you've been going through. I'm hoping that some of the stuff we move through today is gonna help with that, even if you have to come back and do it on the replay later. Either way, I just hope today helps for you. So anyways, while, okay, you are your body. I'm just going to throw that out there. And even if that makes you uncomfortable, stay with me. Okay. You are your body. You are also so much more than just your body. Bree says, oh yeah, I forgot today's physical body. How perfect, right? I know. I've been watching your stories and seeing your posts like, oh, I got you as much as I can from, a couple thousand miles away. And yeah, so yeah, the physical body, we are our body and we're so much more than that as well. And that beautiful word, and if you've been around for a while, you know how much I love the word and. We are beautifully complex, multi-dimensional beings. It is never just black and white. We can simplify things really well, which, as I talked about yesterday, is one of my gifts. I'm really good at simplifying complex topics down to make them more digestible. And it is still complex in a really profound way in which we were designed. We were designed to be complex. I mean, I think about when I was in college studying dance and I had to take anatomy. In fact, I took dance kinesiology and then I took actual anat and phys. And so and all these things anyways. And then my husband's a physical therapist and I was learning about stuff with him. So every time I learned more about the body, I'm pretty well versed in the anatomy and the functions of the human body, right? I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm not anything like that, right? He agrees. He's got a lot to say. Anyways, I just remember when we were learning about the foot. We were learning about the foot and how it should not work. The foot should not be able to support the whole rest of our body, but it does because it is so complex. And same thing like the hip joint, the shoulder joint, they're so complex and they serve such beautiful purposes. And when they're not functioning properly, it creates a lot of dis-ease and dysfunction and discomfort. But when it's functioning properly, think about all the beautiful things that it allows for you to do, right? We were designed to be complex. We were designed to be more than just one thing, which is why we are more than just our body, but we are also our body. Is this making sense? Is this landing for us here? Right? Yes, so good. So let's talk about your body. Let's talk about it and how it is just such this beautifully integral piece of the multifaceted being that you are. Shall we dive in? So there are, the traditional approaches to physical health, which I'm not going to get too much into these right now, just because they're great. These are all super duper important and I'm a huge fan of them. But there's already a crap ton of resources on those elsewhere from people who are more passionate about it than I am. Because again, I used to be a health coach and I'm good at it. And I like doing these things for myself, but I'm not passionate about teaching these things, right? I'm not passionate about teaching about gut health, even though I love learning about it and applying it for myself. I'm not necessarily passionate. I've taught exercise, fitness classes, all of that before, and I'm really good at it, but I'm not passionate about it. So I'm going to let you go to other people, and I'm happy to point you in directions that I enjoy, but use your strategy and authority to know what direction to move in with these. So we've got exercise, we've got calorie deficit, we've got supplements, gut health, hydration, reduce sugar, reduce carbs, right? Those are all traditional approaches to physical health, which are, again, there's an abundance of resources on that. So, and again, I love researching these things. I love learning about them for myself and applying them for myself. So I do know quite a bit of what's out there. So if you need just direction on some good places to look for these kinds of things, I am more than happy to point you in those directions. So feel free to reach out and I can help you with that. The bottom line with these things is to be deeply connected to your strategy and your authority to know what is correct for you. There are some things within your human design that can indicate what may or may not be beneficial for you, like what kind of environment to eat your food in, or what kind of movement might feel good in your body. There are some things in there that's super duper deep dive stuff in human design. But if that's something you ever want to explore, you could get to that point as well. So now that that's out of the way, there are other approaches to strengthening your physical health and your connection to your physical self that I'm going to be covering today, such as somatic connectivity patterns. I'm so excited for that one. There's yoga, there's breathwork, there's emotional freedom technique. That was a hard word to say. EFT tapping, right? There's massage, there's acupuncture, there's, I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot, right? More than I have even listed here. But before we get into these, you did a few already today, Bree. That's so awesome. You did like some Kundalini, right? And some, I'm trying to think of what else I saw that. Yes, I love you and I always watch your stories. So I'm like, yeah, I saw that. That's awesome. That makes me so happy. And this is another thing too, because I mentioned this with the traditional approaches. Same thing with the non-traditional approaches. Your strategy and your authority are going to let you know which ones to use at which time, because to be honest, sometimes it can get overwhelming, right? Because I've already talked about a bunch of ways that we can approach our physical health. We don't need to do all of them all the time. So let your body tell you what it wants. That's the bottom line there, okay? Bree says, I did some yoga and stretching first because I was hurting so much. Did it help? I hope it helped at least a little bit. Have you found a chiropractor that's going to be able to help you out as well? I've got a great one just right down the street. It's kind of awesome. My brother is a chiropractor and my husband's a physical therapist. My family's pretty darn covered. It's kind of awesome. So anyhow, before we get into like the specifics of these things, I want to share why this is so important. And I'm going to share a truth that might be a little bit uncomfy to hear. Okay, bear with me. Separating your being from your body allows you to not feel responsible for your body. I'm going to say that one more time. When you separate your being from your body, it allows you to not feel responsible for your body. It allows you to dissociate from that knee pain, or from that weight gain, or from the acne, speaking from personal experience, right? Because then we get to play the victim a little bit. Like, this knee is just being stupid. Well, what are you going to do about it? What is it telling you? What is your knee telling you? What message is it trying to send you? And because once you step into that, you step into awareness mode, and then suddenly you're responsible for listening to that message and heeding message, like the lesson that you need to take from it, right? So I want to know how this lands for you, this truth that I just shared with you. I want you to share with me out loud, or like type it out, put it out into the 3D world. How does this land for you? How do you feel about this truth here? And I'm going to read what Bree said. She said, it did help, but it was temporary, sadly. Then I had to sit for training. I can't get in with any practitioner until like next week. Got some icy hot, have some Tylenol I can take, and we'll continue stretching and yoga as much as possible. Hopefully today will help. Hopefully today will give you at least some direction as well to help get you by until you can get in with someone who can give you a little bit more help. Because that's another thing too. While we do need to be responsible for our own bodies, we can also ask for help. That's why I love chiropractic work. I love physical therapy. I love massage. Although, did you guys know I've never actually received a professional massage? Someday. Although my husband's a professional. He's not a masseuse, but like they learn that stuff in physical therapy school. So I guess kind of. Anyways. Tell me how that lands, and for those watching the replay, I'm definitely going to come back and support you through this discomfort as well, okay? Because here's the thing. We couldn't have mental and physical and spiritual lives here if it were not for our physical bodies. If we do not have our physical body, we are not on this physical plane, and we cannot experience life. Right? So whatever beliefs you have about the afterlife, or where we go when we die, or anything like that, or where we were before we were born, we know that without a physical body, we are not here. So why are we separating from our physical body when it is so integral to this human experience? I mean, we also hear people talk about, or sometimes we've had our own out of body experiences, right? That are so deeply profound and beautiful. And then we come back to our bodies and we get to apply those learnings and move forward with them, right? How do you expect to have an out of body experience without a body to have it out of? So today we are taking more responsibility for loving and caring and listening to our bodies. Okay. When the body, mind, and the spirit all function together as an integral unit, the energy of our life, like our life's purpose, our life's energy, flows freely. It just flows. I mean, because think about a triangle, right? You can kind of see this triangle. If you take away one point of the triangle, it's broken and the energy can't flow. I can't use my finger to point. I'm going to use my nose. It stops. It can't continue flowing, right? Whereas if we're all functioning all together, the energy gets to just continue to flow and flow however it's designed to flow in whatever given moment, right? So if we fall into the pattern of seeing our physical self, our mental self, and our spiritual self as three separate entities, our energy becomes dammed. It gets stopped up and stagnant. And I mean, think about what happens with like stagnant water out in nature. If there's stagnant water, it's going to become diseased. It's going to become stinky. It's going to not be consumable. It's not going to be healthy for anyone, right? Whereas if you find a flowing stream, generally speaking, I mean, obviously don't go drinking out of any stream that you come across, but chances are much more likely that that water is going to be healthy and clear and life-giving. And that is why I do the work that I do, to help you integrate the body, the mind, and the spirit in ways that feel good for you. Okay. And a stuck body, any stuckness that you experience within your body is going to reflect a stuck aspect of your being, which is why I work with all aspects of the being, right? So if we look at and that's why I was talking about the other day, right? You can start with any aspect of who you are and it will affect the rest. So if you find like you've got this shoulder issue that just won't quit, let's investigate that. Where does that also correlate with your human design? Where is there some subconscious programming that is not serving you that could be living in your shoulder? Because our subconscious stores everything in the body, right? Is this all starting to land? Is this all starting to make sense? Is that making sense, huh, bud? This little dude is so tired and he is not, he's got FOMO, man. So yeah, a change in any component of any kind of integrated system is going to alter the entire system for better or for worse, right? So I think about my hip. For those who don't know, sorry, just a second. All right, dude, he just needs some mama snuggles for a second. I had hip surgery in 2017, I believe. And I still know, like, that's where most of my trauma lives, is in my hips. And while it's getting better, the rest of me is getting better as well. And while it's still a challenge, my trauma is still providing to be a challenge as well, right? So you can either make progress on the healing and it will affect all pieces of the whole, or you can continue to turn a blind eye and let things continue to deteriorate and get more and more challenging. Eventually, you're going to be forced to do something about it or continue to get worse. It's your choice. Honestly, 100% it's your choice. But you will be confronted with making the intentional choice at some point in your life. So the sooner you make that choice, the better, honestly. And again, as we talked about, I think it was just yesterday, did we talk about this? Or maybe it was on Monday. Anyways, your entire past, both your personal past and your generational past, and if you believe in past lives, right, like all of that is inscribed on and in your body. All there, everything. Your body is a walking history of you and your ancestors. Everything that you could possibly ever need to know about you and your ancestors, it's right here, right now, I mean, how cool is that? Oh, come on, computer. There we go. So yeah, just like what this says, our physical body is the place that memories call home. Let that be empowering. Because I've heard, I had never thought about it as being like a scary thing until someone mentioned that recently to me. They're like, oh, I don't know if I want all those memories. Well, start learning what that can mean for you. And it is what you make it to mean. So if you want that to feel daunting and overwhelming, you can, or you can think, how freaking cool that I have all the lessons that my ancestors learned already within me. They're already there. I don't have to relearn them. It's there. A lot of the time it's just remembering. Most of the time we just need to remember lessons that have already been learned and then embodying them so that we can move forward and create the changes that we are sent here to make. Because as again, we talked about yesterday, our generation tends to be the one that is here to break old patterns because we know better now, right? So I'll share kind of a personal example as well about how this can, here, I'm going to stand up while I do this and see if I can get this guy to fall asleep. But so for those who are maybe new here or who missed the big announcement that I shared last summer, so I shared on social media last year that I experienced sexual abuse as a child. And for anyone who knows me, it was probably nobody that you know. No family, no one like that, no one that's still in my life. This person has not been in my life for a very long time. But needless to say, I have serious trauma from my childhood. And here is how it manifested into my physical body, because it, holy Moses, definitely has, right? It started with a clenched jaw. I remember like in high school, I would wake up in the morning, you know, I'd wake up early morning to get ready for school. And I remember like, as I would be stumbling around trying to start to get ready and I wasn't all the way awake yet, I would notice that my jaw was just clenched. So I knew that I was clenching my jaw all night and I had no idea why. I also didn't realize it was that much of a problem. I knew that my jaw would get sore, but it took a while for me to realize that it was kind of a problem. And so then that led to TMJ disorder, which I still deal with to this day. But having that TMJ disorder led to a tight neck, which caused tightness in a whole chain of muscles, which led to poor breathing. I had no idea these things were connected until my husband was in physical therapy school. So like a year ago or two, maybe like a year and a half ago, I learned this, that my TMJ plus my breathing issues were connected. Now my breathing issues became much more prevalent while I was in college, because again, as a dancer, breath is everything. Breath initiates all the movement. Breath determines the quality of your movement. And it was very evident that I had breathing issues. Like I just could never quite get a full breath. My breath just always, even still, I'm still moving through this healing to this day, okay? So I am not perfectly healed, just in case any of you thought that for some reason. But my teachers, they could all see that my breathing just wasn't as full as it could be. My fellow dancers, my fellow friends could see that my movement was just being impacted by the lack of ability to breathe. Like I just couldn't breathe. Bree says, I'm with you, sister. Yeah, yes, right. And we will not ever be fully healed in this life, and that's totally fine. So yeah, I even went to doctors. I've seen like 2 or 3 doctors, at least, maybe more, I can't remember at this point, to have my breathing checked out. Like I've had x-rays done, I've had taken breathing tests, I've tried inhalers, right? Isn't that what they're called? All these things, because like they could see that I did not have the breath capacity that I should have, but we couldn't figure out why, because everything else looked good. Everything else was normal, right? And then again, my problematic hips, I had to have hip surgery, and once again, it was a mystery kind of a thing. I went to physical therapy for a while. I had a steroid injection. I had MRIs, x-rays, all the things, trying to figure out what was wrong with my hip, and no one could figure it out until they sliced me open. And then I ended up having this really rare thing called was going to say the TMJ thing, synovial chondromatosis. My doctor down in Utah, who like almost exclusively works on hips in a teaching hospital, said that he only sees 1 or 2 cases of it a year. So like this random thing that they don't even know why it happens. I mean, I do, because trauma, right? But like they don't have a scientific cause for it. But all these things were so connected. So do you see like all these things? I clenched my jaw because I never spoke out about what happened to me as a child, because I didn't know I was supposed to. I didn't know. I just didn't know, because that conversation just wasn't something that was had in my family. Like my parents didn't know to have that conversation with us, right? They never would have guessed to open up that conversation with me. So I don't blame my parents by any means, just want to clear that up. And so because I wasn't speaking out that truth, I clenched my jaw, and then that caused my breathing issues. And then I stored tightness in my hips because of the sexual nature of the trauma that I went through, right? All these things. Oh yeah, and then I was mugged right after I graduated college, mugged at gunpoint. So that also just exacerbated everything. So do you see how everything is just intertwined? It's intertwined. I'm not sharing all of this for any kind of sympathy, because like I'm not mad about it. It's just my current reality, and I am grateful for the things that I have learned from it, and I'm grateful that it gives me the opportunity to share with you what I now know. Yeah, it was terrifying. In fact, I just had a weekend get together with my college roommates a couple weeks ago, and it was me and a couple of them. It was on their birthday. They have a shared birthday. We had gone to San Francisco for the day for their birthday, and it happened that night. And so we were talking about like how it's been a decade now, like a week ago or so. It's been a decade since it happened. And we were talking about how we all thought that we were okay, and then we shared all of our like panic moments, PTSD moments after the fact. We're all doing much better now. It's all good. Yeah, so again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. And just to show you that any little thing, well, like even my acne, I still have not totally learned what my acne is indicating. I know it's sharing something with me. I'm just not entirely sure what it is yet. So that's one that I haven't shared much about yet, because I have not received learnings there quite yet. But like, I mean, I've been dealing with acne for literally most of my life. How old am I? 32. I've been dealing with acne for at least 20 years. How stupid is that? I freaking hate it. But as I do my own healing, it is slowly getting better. So I'm not sure what it's indicating yet. But again, every little thing, right? Maybe you get ingrown toenails a lot. Your body's telling you something. It's indicating something. It's not random. Absolutely not random. It is annoying. Yep. It is absolutely annoying. And we don't have to be like, because again, I don't enjoy that I can't take a full breath in all the time. I don't enjoy when I get a big old volcano showing up on my face. I don't enjoy when my hip gets caught and I have to go through a whole process to get it unstuck. You know, like it's not fun. And it's not for naught as well. It has a purpose, even if we're not enjoying the process of figuring out what that purpose is. Okay. And if any of you feel inclined to share little things that you think might be indicating something, even if you don't know what they are, share them. Because that's another thing too. It took me like, for the longest time, I was like, I think my breathing is I think it's not just physical. I think it's trying to tell me something. It took me years, because like I would have that thought and then it would just kind of go away. It would be just like this fleeting thought and then it would go away. So it took me years to get to the point where I was like, oh yeah, let's look at this from not just a physical point. Let's look at this from like my mental state or my spiritual state, right? So if you claim these things in the 3D world, it's gonna set that process in motion a little bit more. So feel free to share anything that you think might be coming up in your body right now that could be addressed. Okay. Before I go to that, let's talk about somatics. Let me know if you've ever heard of somatics. It's just somatic is essentially physical, like somatic equals physical, right? There are several, Bree has heard of it, awesome. So good. And there's there's a ton of different modalities of somatic healing. And I have learned about a few different ones, but the one that I'm absolutely most well versed in is called Bartenia Fundamentals. It's mostly prevalent in the dance world, but it's transformative for every single human being. And within Bartenia Fundamentals, there are 6 movement connectivity patterns. And I mean, we can go super deep on all 6 of those, which we do inside the Integration by Design Mastermind. Today, I just want to touch very briefly on the first 2 with you. So we're going to do little mini explorations with them. And with that, I'm not going to have as many slides for the rest of this, just so that you can be really, really present in your body, really focus on feeling into your body, okay? So kind of just get comfortable wherever you're at. If you want to lay down, you can stay sitting up, whatever feels good. Okay. The first pattern, I'm going to talk as you get comfortable. The first pattern is breath. Breath is the initiator of movement. It guides your movement. Like I said earlier, it initiates your movement, and it determines the quality of your movement as well. And by quality, I don't mean good or bad. I mean quality as in, is it shallow? Is it expansive? Is it full? Is it juicy? Is it deep? Is it, that kind of quality? All right. All right. So before I'm going to go ahead and have you just go through this little practice. Oh, that was a good breath. Sometimes my baby helps me breathe too, which is kind of fun, which is ironic because while he was inside of me, made it real hard to breathe. Okay. Let's just do this little brief exercise here, this little breath practice. Just take a full deep breath. And just notice, with that breath, were you completely still or did you move? Did your chest and or your belly expand? Did your head shift at all? Did your center of gravity move ever so slightly, perhaps? Just notice, and you can keep just paying attention to that. Just take a few more full deep breaths and just notice where it impacts your body, like what parts of your body are being moved just because you're breathing. Your breath guides your movement every single time you inhale and exhale. Without having to do anything extra, your body just follows your breath's guiding input. It just does. You don't have to do anything extra. It's one reason why I love breath so much, because it teaches us ease in being, ease in existing, okay? Now the question is, are you using your breath to your benefit or to your detriment? I actually had posted about this, I don't know, a week or 2 ago. You can always look back on my old post if you want to find it. But if you wait until life slows down before you take a big breath, then you are going to live a very breath-deprived life. Okay, so if you're trying to hold your breath until you catch a break, you're using breath to your detriment. Bree says, something I learned in yoga was ocean breathing, and I find myself turning to it often when I'm not doing yoga too. That's so good. Yes, those kinds of breathing, they're not meant just to be used in those containers. Like yogic breathing does not need to be reserved for just when you're practicing yoga. These things that you learn, like if you ever do breath work, you don't have to do it just when you sit down to do a specific breath work session. Like one of my favorite breathing patterns is alternate nostril breathing, which I'm not going to get into right now, but if you're familiar, I mean, it's a pretty common one. I'll do that just randomly, like while I'm driving down from the grocery store, Breath gets to be used to your benefit anytime you desire, because you are always using your breath. No one else is using it. No one is forcing your breath to do anything different. You get to use your breath, okay? And breath, again, so this is a pattern. This is a physical movement pattern. Even though it's not a lot of doing, right? That's why this is the pattern for connecting with the self and allowing yourself to just friggin' be. Just be. right? It's very much with the feminine energy, all about the being. And just like within human design, how we always return to our strategy and authority, so too is breath the foundation. It's the foundation of physical movement patterns, right? So breath and strategy and authority go hand in hand. You can use breath to remind yourself to return to your strategy and authority, which is why actually in the Integration by Design Mastermind, those lessons go together because they work so beautifully in congruence with each other. Breath is the foundation of physical connection. You could always return to your breath. If anything ever feels overwhelming or too much or confusing, return to your breath. We talked about the other day how confusion and overwhelm are just convenient states of being for your mind, because it allows you to not have to try to figure anything out. You don't need to stay there. You don't need to stay in confusion. You don't need to stay in overwhelm. You can simply return to the breath, right? And I've always said this, there is an insane amount of truth to be found in your movement, and breath is no exception. Because again, even though breath is not this massive mover, even though it's not helping you walk across the lawn, although it kind of is, but like, you get it, you can sit and breathe. You will remain in one spot and breathe. It is a movement pattern, and there's so much truth to be found in it. In fact, when I was in college studying somatics, I had a blog called Truth in Movement. In fact, I think it still exists somewhere on the internet. But I've always known that there's truth to be found in movement. And again, breath brings so much truth. And I've already talked to you about my own breathing challenges, right? I have learned so much from those challenges. And I've learned so much from the expansiveness that I've gained since then as well. Whether you're in the low expression or the high expression of any kind of energy, there is something to be learned and something to be gained from it. And you get to decide whether or not you remain there, whether it's low or high, right? Sometimes we even struggle to stay in the high expression of our energy because maybe we're not comfortable with the high expression. If we're used to being in the lower expression, that's our comfort zone. So sometimes it's hard for us to stay in the higher expression, but breath can allow that. Breath can help us just stay there because again, feminine energy is breath. Breath is feminine energy, and feminine energy is all about receiving as well. Oh, went off onto a little bit of a tangent there, so hopefully that was helpful to someone. Let's see. Let's go into a little bit more of a little breath movement exploration. Okay, so again, find yourself in a really just a comfortable position, whatever that looks like for you. You can just stay right where you are. You can sit on the floor, lay down. It gets to look however feels good for you and your body right now. And once you're there, I just want you to just, with all the curiosity, tune into your breath. Just notice. Notice its qualities, notice how it is. And as you notice your breath, I want you to start to recognize how your body is responding to it. Just notice where there's a natural rise and fall, or little shifts in movement. Pay attention from the very tippy top of your head down to the very tips of your toes. Just notice how every breath that you inhale and exhale is facilitating movement. And as you notice this natural and ever so subtle movement, feel free to allow that movement to become a little bit more exaggerated. And if in this process your breath begins to change, that's perfectly fine. If you desire to change your breath a little bit, that's perfectly fine. We're just going to focus on the effects of that breath. Just be silent for another minute while you continue this exploration. Feel free to allow yourself to exaggerate the movement as much or as little feels really supportive and healing and expansive today. start to begin to come to a place of stillness as it feels good. And whenever you're ready, just go ahead and come back into this space. And then I'd love to hear what that experience was like for you. So again, those on the replay, comment, share what your experience was like, solidify this learning, put it out into 3D physical world, let it become real. Bree says the baby is always excited by deep breathing. I love that so much. Baby knows what's good. I know that sometimes when I do this exercise, because it gets to be a little bit different every time, right? Because, oh, hello, he was sleeping and all of a sudden he's staring at me. Sometimes it's almost like there are places in my body that the breath just can't bypass. Like it just, usually it happens to be like in my hips or somewhere in my back, but I'll be like doing this breathing scanning throughout my entire body, and I'll notice like I can't get my breath to go in this place for some reason. So if that happens to you, just know you're not wrong for that. Okay, it's okay for it to not feel perfect every time, because whatever your experience is like, that's what your experience is, and that is your truth, and that's where you are right now, and that's perfect. Okay. Cool. I don't know if you guys can hear my toddler. I have no idea what she's doing. Hopefully it's not too distracting. Okay, let's talk about the second movement pattern that we're going to go over today. Core distal. This is the second Bartenia physical movement pattern, and I love it. Oh, it's so good. They're all so good. I'm going to say that about every single one. When you're in the mastermind and you watch these deep dive lessons, I almost always say like, oh yeah, this one's my favorite. Oh, this one's my favorite. Oh, this is my favorite. They're all my favorite. It's like trying to pick a favorite child. They're all the favorite. So core distal, okay. So core distal comes second because you need to first be deeply connected to your breath and fully supported by your breath, or as fully, like whatever fully supported looks like in any given moment, right? Because again, fully supported does not need to look like perfection. Just whatever fully supported, whatever being fully supported looks like for you in that moment is perfect. Okay, so now that you're supported, you know that you're not going to fall apart, right, when you experience life outside of yourself, because again, breath is all about the self. It's all about being divinely selfish in a really good high level way that benefits the greater good, right? Benefits the collective to be selfish in that way. Bree says, it is really so interesting having done this a year ago and doing it now. I can see the expansion and growth I have had in so much of this. Oh my word, I love that so much, Bree. That's beautiful. Oh, I could geek out on that with you for so long. Oh, but that's so cool. Thank you for sharing that. So while breath is all about the self, the core distal pattern is all about relationships. So the self and anything that's not the self, right? So when you are in this pattern, it shows you and you discover how you can move beyond your own core. So core is the self, distal is anything outside of the self, right? You can move beyond your core and feel safe and supported, knowing that you always get to return back to the self at any given moment. Regardless of what external circumstances may look like, you can always return back to the self at the drop of a hat. Okay, and sometimes that is utilized via trauma responses because our subconscious is trying to keep us safe. And sometimes we get to be very and deeply intentional with it by recognizing safety where our fear center might be telling us we're not. But that's a whole other discussion, right? Which we could get into another time if we want to. But we do discuss fear a lot in the mastermind, a lot. There's a lot of that comes up there, which is great because then we get to shift from fear into safety and see what fear is telling us. But again, I digress. When you're in this core distal pattern, once you have learned how to utilize this, you gain the capacity to move beyond the self while still remaining supported by the self. right? So you are still utilizing breath while we're here. And all of these patterns get to build on top of each other, right? So we always return to the breath. So we are always supported by the self as we move forward, as things get more complex, right? Let me know if that makes sense. So even when we are going out of ourself and exploring this human experience, we are still supported and connected to ourselves. Yes, it does to me at least. Okay, good. Good. It's sort of this energy. So the core distal is sort of this energy of like, I take in and I pour out, right? I take in and I pour out, taking from my environment and giving back to it in really aligned ways, right? So again, staying connected to our breath, staying connected to our strategy and authority to know what is aligned for us. So taking what we know is for us and giving what we know we are designed and ready to give, so that it's a very mutually beneficial exchange and everyone is benefiting, right? Because if you give what is not yours to give, then you are going to be too depleted to give what is yours to give. And if you receive what is not yours to receive, then you're not going to have room to receive what is yours to receive. Do you see how simple it gets to be? It really does get to be that simple. So it's very much an opening and a closing, opening and closing, expanding and condensing. I know, go try to take a nap, okay? Then go be on your tablet or go play outside. You can only be in here if you do not make any noise. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. So with the core distal, with the opening and the closing, the expanding and contracting, one is not better than the other. Never is one better than the other. They just all have their, nope, you can't be on that chair. They just all have their own moments. They're all aligned in different moments and it's all different for everyone, right? So expansion is great, but if we're continually expanding, then we're not going to be able to return back to ourselves to integrate what we've learned when we were outside of ourselves, right? And sometimes that can be where dissociation comes in. Like, so if you're dissociating as a trauma response, then you're never going to be able to reconnect with yourself and integrate the things that you have learned while outside of yourself, right? So this is where you get to begin recognizing what is you and what is not you, which is highly relevant with human design, right? You have your signature theme and you have your not self theme. Okay, that's fine. So knowing your signature theme and your not self theme can be very helpful in this pattern, right? Because we get to really recognize what is for us and what is not for us. And so with that breath pattern, whoops, I'm doing weird things with Zoom. There we go. With that breath pattern, you really begin to get to know yourself, right? You get really deeply intimate with yourself and connected with yourself. And so the more you know yourself, the more mobility you have to explore beyond yourself, right? So think about a tree. A tree is very grounded, right? It's very deeply rooted in the earth. And the deeper the roots of the tree, the more flexibility it has. So a tree that has really deep roots, there could be a big old massive windstorm and it's not going anywhere because it has that flexibility to move around with the wind, with the storm. So when you're really grounded and deeply rooted in yourself, in who you are, the more capacity and flexibility you're going to have to withstand whatever storms come your way. And to be able to fully experience, I mean, think about a tree that's going through a storm, right? It's fully experiencing that storm and it's probably not super pleasant because it's probably losing a bunch of leaves and some fruit maybe, right? Maybe it's sustaining a few little injuries, but it's not being uprooted. It is still remaining grounded in who it is, right? So that is kind of the essence of this core distal pattern. It's very much being grounded in the self while also getting to experience anything that is outside of the self.
Can you take this book?
Nope, those are mine, but you can take this paper. All right, let's see this paper.
But it had letters.
That's fine, I'm done with it. I'm done with it. Okay, so are there any questions on this core distal? I want to take you through a short little core distal movement exploration as well. So let me know if you have any questions on that before we go into that.
But you just took the book and pen.
I know you cannot have those. You can have these. Okay, I'm glad it's making sense. Oops, I did not mean to move to that yet. Take these. Here, give me one itty bitty second, you guys. All right, boundaries have been set. We'll see how those go. Okay, let's go ahead and go through a little core distal practice. So again, just, well, on this one, so yes, get comfortable again. I want you to either like sit or recline or fully lay down. If you're in a space to be able to lie down, I think you're going to get more out of it, but do whatever feels aligned and supportive for you, right? And first, we're going to go back to that breath. So go ahead and tune back into that breath. Just letting it be whatever it wants to be right now. It doesn't need to look or feel any certain way. Just let that breath show up how it's going to show up today. And then following that breath, however it feels good, perhaps on an exhale, if that feels supportive, I'm going to have one, I want you to curl up into your center. And then perhaps on an inhale, I want you to reach all of your limbs out, expanding outward as much as you can, as much as feels supportive, as much as feels really aligned. And then just repeat that, just that in your own timing, according to your own breath. Just go through that a few more times, coming into the self, retreating into the self, and then expanding outward. In and out. Just noting what it feels like. Lots of curiosity here. It doesn't need to look any certain way. It doesn't need to feel any certain way. Don't try to force it to be anything that it's not. Just experience it for whatever it is right now. And then whenever you're ready, you can bring this little practice to a close. Coming back into this space. And then again, I want to hear what this experience was like for you. Even if you need to come back later, you know, maybe you need to go out and experience it yourself again a couple more times. Maybe you want to journal on it and then come back and share what you've learned from it. That is perfectly fine. But I do want to hear, I want you to share. It's not so much that I want to hear. I mean, I do want to hear about it, but also most importantly, I want you to share about it, because again, it's going to put it out into the 3D world and make it real for you. Once it's real, your trajectory is set and you're moving forward, and you're moving forward on an aligned path, okay? And one thing that I want to reiterate, see, Bree says, I definitely want to try that again when it's a little quieter here. Yeah, yep, I totally relate. In fact, I really hope that this next portion goes okay, because I want to take you guys through a breathwork practice. I tried to have a conversation with this one about not making any noise, but I will be sending an actual audio that is pre-recorded later. I'm going to talk to her again here in just a second. But so something that I wanted to bring up is that through these movement patterns, so through the breath, through the core distal, if at any point of practicing this, if you noticed any areas of stuckness in your body, right, kind of like what I mentioned earlier, how sometimes I just felt like I couldn't get my breath to keep moving down my spine, or would just get caught in my hips or anything like that, it's okay. You're not wrong for that, right? Again, it's just indicative. It's just like a little spotlight being shined on something saying, hey, pay attention to this, pay attention to this. This needs to be addressed, right? Anyways, we're going to move through a breathwork practice specifically for self-healing. And again, this is like a condensed version of it. And when I send out the email for the replay today, I'm going to be sending you a longer audio there as well, okay? So let me talk to my 4-year-old really quickly while you go ahead and get yourself into a comfortable position. And again, if circumstances are not perfect for you to be doing this breath work right now, that's okay. You can still participate and just do it the best that you can in this moment. And then you can return to it later with that audio in the email when you can be more present, okay? Both are going to be equally healing. And I'm gonna talk about that. Actually, I'm just gonna address that right now. Every single breath that you take, every time you take an intentional breath, it is a moment of healing. So even if you feel like you can't do this breath work perfectly right now, it is still healing. Okay, so just receive that, know that that gets to be true for you. And I'm gonna see how I can shift circumstances here. They may not change at all, so let's see. She thinks she's gonna try this meditation with us. And I'm gonna hold the little dude, see if I can keep him happy too. Let me turn on a little bit of music. You guys can let me know if it's too loud or if it's perfect. Where did it go? And I'll get him to stop crying before I start, I promise. He's such a good baby. All right, let's go with, oh, bud, I know. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. We're getting Spotify up. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Let's do this one. Let me know if that's too loud. Can you hear that okay? Can someone give me an indication on the balance between my voice and the music? You can. Perfect. Okay, cool. Okay, you ready, Elsie? We're gonna do it. Let go of the handle, please. Okay, go ahead and get comfortable. Okay, here we go. So go ahead and just find a really comfortable position. If you can, lay down. If not, that's perfectly fine. I want you to just set an intention for this practice today. Perhaps it's simply healing or expansion or abundance, connection to source. Whatever it is that you feel drawn to in this moment, whatever it is that you need and desire in this moment, just set that intention right now. And just breathe slowly and easily in and out of your nose for a moment as you settle further into this intention. And now as I guide you through a scan of your body from head to toe, I want you to just make a simple note of any areas of comfort and or discomfort. Just notice. Notice your face, your eyebrows, your eyes, your cheeks, your jaw, your lips. Just noticing. And just shift your awareness now to your neck and your shoulders. Continue scanning down your arms. Clear down to the tips of your fingers. And your chest, your back, all through your entire torso. Into your hips, your legs, your feet. Clear down to the tips of your toes. And now I want you to choose one area of discomfort or stuckness that you noticed that you would like to support in this practice. And if it's accessible to you, bring one hand to that area and continue breathing through the nose. Begin to soften your body on the exhale for several rounds. Just noticing any sensations or changes that may occur. Now begin to lengthen your exhale by just 1 or 2 counts. I'll be silent again for just a few moments as you repeat this healing breath pattern with the focus on this area of your body.
I kind of know the meaning.
Just begin to notice any changes that you've experienced in this time. And I'll be silent one more time so that you may maintain your focus on this same area of your body, or perhaps you would like to move to a different area. Go ahead now and release your hand and allow your breathing to return to a normal rhythm for a few moments. Whenever you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes and return nice and easy to a seated position as you allow your practice to come to a close. Okay. Oops. Just close out this one. Okay, what was this experience like for you? Give me 1 second, I've got school pickup stuff happening. So go ahead and share your experience while I respond to this real quick. Should have had that up the whole time. That's okay, though. Sorry, my sister-in-law's trying to talk to me. Thanks for bearing with me. Okay, so I definitely want to hear how that was for you, whether now or later. Maybe you want to go journal it out first and ponder on it for a bit. But again, claim this experience. Claim it out loud. I don't know if you guys can hear my daughter, but I kind of hope you can't. So anyways, this is just a little bit of a taste, like seriously, tip of the iceberg of what we go through and what we experience in the Integration by Design Mastermind. have so many things that I could say about it right now, but honestly, the things that we've gone through this week, again, it's just the tip of the iceberg. If you felt like you have gained greater insight, greater validation, greater space to heal just this week, imagine how much more ease you could experience in your healing process by joining this mastermind, by receiving the space I'm holding for you within this container. Because if you're here, I'm already holding space for you within this mastermind. I already am, because if you've been here, I know that this space is also for you. Because if you continue to show up for yourself this way, I know you're going to show up for yourself in this mastermind. And I know that you're going to receive exactly what you're looking for in this space.
Now I'm not like
So I just want to remind you, Elsie, honey, you gotta be quiet still, okay? She's very good at that whole screeching thing. I know, bud. I think he's getting hungry. So we'll wrap this up here in a minute, but I just want to remind you that you get to experience all of these things. And again, because I'm also going to be putting this on the podcast, I'll read these out, but let me grab my little dude first because he just needs mama right now. You're ready. You are ready to deeply reconnect with your body. You're ready to begin to recognize the messages it sends you. Today, we talked a lot about those messages. Sometimes you might get them, you might know that your body is talking to you, but you don't know what it's trying to tell you, right? Which can be really frustrating sometimes, right? It's like, I know you're like with my acne sometimes. I'm like, I know you're trying to tell me something, but I don't know what it is yet. But also right now, I'm not frustrated about that because I also know that for me, it's not the right time for me to explore that yet because I'm still working through other messages because we don't need to do it all at once. So there's another permission piece for you. But anyways, the point is you get to become the master of your own body. You get to become the authority of the messages that your body is sending you. You don't need anyone else. You don't even need me to tell you what those messages are. I am just going to show you how you get to become the interpreter. You are your own interpreter. You don't need anyone else to validate it for you, right? You're also ready to remember your own inherent worth. You're ready to accept support. You're ready to accept guidance as it is abundantly offered to you. Okay, so while, yes, you are your own authority, you are your own interpreter, you also get to receive support as you become more and more comfortable with that position. As you become the master of that position, you get to receive support, you get to receive guidance through it all. Because sometimes, honestly, that can feel really lonely and isolating because we are all having such unique experiences. And yet, we are all sharing themes as well, which is why I have this space for you, which is why I have this container open, so that you can simultaneously have support while becoming your own master, right? I also know that you're ready to shift that internal narrative. Those thoughts that you keep having, you're ready to shift those in a way that allows you to be free from the anxiety, from the exhaustion, from the stress, from the mom guilt. Not to say that you will never experience anxiety again, not to say that you're never going to experience stress again, but you will no longer be victim to it. You will no longer be chained by it. It's not going to be a shackle. It's just going to be an experience that you know how to manage in your own unique way. You don't need my specific process to manage your stress. You need your specific process. My methodology, that one. My methodology is going to show you how to curate your own process for managing all of this in a way that feels so good. It just gets to feel good. I don't know how many times I have to say that. It gets to feel good even when it doesn't. Because anxiety doesn't feel good. And yet it also gets to feel good to know that you know how to manage it. It's like, I've seen this picture. Let me know if you've seen this picture before, where it's like a lot of people think that, so imagine a jar with a ball in it. Lots of people think, so you're the jar and your stress, your anxiety, or your trauma is the ball. Lots of people think that when you do this kind of work, the ball shrinks. It doesn't a lot of the time, depending on what it is. Some things can shrink and go away. But most of the time, it's that the jar is getting bigger. You are getting more expansive. You are learning how to hold your experiences with more grace, with more personal support, with more alignment, right? And less shame. More curiosity expands your container. So when you join this mastermind container, your own personal container is going to expand so that you can better experience this very imperfect life in a way that gets to feel good. Because again, when you know how to manage these things, while the things themselves don't feel great, it feels great to be able to hold them. So that's what gets to feel so freaking good. Okay. I also know that you're ready to experience that massive growth. You're ready to experience that transformation. I mean, my gosh, maybe you won't even be a jar by the end of this 12 weeks. Maybe instead of a jar, you're going to be this like glowing orb, right? You might completely transform what kind of container you are. I don't know. I don't know what you need, what you desire. Your body does though. And you're going to discover that as you curate your own unique process. Okay. So again, all those beautiful words said by beautiful clients. And one last time, a reminder of what it is that you receive within this mastermind. You get these high-level lessons on whatever is in your personal human design chart. As soon as you sign up for the mastermind, I pull your chart and I make sure that you have all the lessons that you need based on all the little pieces of your unique chart. By that, like, eventually I will have every lesson ever needed on human design, because every time I make a few more lessons because there's new things in a new chart, right? So like my first round, I needed to do manifesting generator. My second round, I needed to do projector. And then I needed to do different variable lessons. I needed to do different gate lessons, right? So it's going to, not only is the container going to expand every time, but you are always going to have exactly what you need. You're also going to be learning, I mean, we learned about breath and core distal today. You're going to learn about those. I mean, I spent like 5 minutes on each one of those max. You're going to get a lot more than that on each of the 6 healing patterns and more. There's always going to be more, right? Not that you need more, but more is going to be available so that whatever you need, you can be drawn to it and utilize it. You're also, again, going to have live coaching calls like this, but higher level every other week. And in between those high level calls, you're going to have high level support within the group, which will either be on Boxer or Facebook Messenger probably. So you'll have the community and the support from me in between those live calls. So you're still receiving live support daily. At least 5 days a week, maybe 6. I haven't decided for sure if I'm gonna have my business hours on Saturday yet. You're going to have that on-demand library of healing resources. And like I have already found a few more things that I'm going to be adding to it. Like it's always going to be growing so that you will never need another healing modality again, because they're all going to be there. You're going to have access to everything that you will ever need, and you're likely not ever going to need all of it, but it's all going to be there so that you have access to whatever your energy is guided to, right? I don't create all of this stuff so that you can be overwhelmed by all the things that you have to go through. Nope, it's all just there so that whatever you need, it's going to be there. You might not ever need a breathwork session. You might not ever need an EFT session. Maybe you're going to go through all the hypnotherapy. Like, you are your own authority. And then again, that VIP celebration call at the end of the 12 weeks, which I'm so excited for because we are holding all the space for all the goodness. We're sitting in the goodness. We are receiving. We are allowing ourselves to receive and enjoy what feels good. Because the more we celebrate what feels good, the more we are open to receiving more of what feels good. I deeply believe that. And then another reminder on what you receive this particular round. This is going to change probably every round. I don't know. But you get that private Gene Keys reading when you join us by the time we start next Tuesday. So enroll. It says here September 5th. I might fudge it a little bit. And if you sign up on the 6th, you might still get a private reading. Don't hold me to that, but I might. So I would join by the 5th just to be safe. But you're going to get this private high-level reading on your Gene Keys sequences. There are 3 Gene Keys sequences, and they are, I mean, if you thought going through your human design gates yesterday was profound, be prepared to have your mind wildly blown. You're going to be even more validated. You're going to be even more clear on why you might experience some of the challenges you experience and why maybe you're drawn to your certain desires. Because you've probably already heard that if you desire it, it's meant for you. Whatever you desire is yours already. This is going to help you accept those desires, accept that they are for you. Okay. So I just want to ask again, like I did on day one, what is it worth to you? What would it be worth to you if you could know exactly how to manage your own brand of stress and burnout? Never having to worry about being too stressed or being too burnt out, because you already know, how to manage it. Like as soon as you start to notice those signs of stress, you know how to manage it yourself. And you also know how to ask for help when you know you need it. Fun. What if you could live in full confidence of your own ability to handle anything that life throws your way, right? Again, knowing that you know how to grow that container. Bree says, so sorry, I got called away by the fam jam. I'll definitely rewatch to do the breath work. Perfect. I'll also be sending, I don't know if you caught this, Bree, but I'm also going to be sending out an audio in the email for the breath work as well, so you can have access to that audio. So yes, knowing that you don't have to wait for life to be perfect before you get to experience that peace, that joy, that fulfillment. Because we know that we are complex, multifaceted beings, right? We can go through the craziness and the less ideal aspects of life and still have joy and feel good and peace. We can find pockets of peace anywhere, literally anywhere. Okay. And again, what would it be worth to you if you had access to all the energetic resources you could ever possibly need to aid your healing and your expansion? I just really want you to answer this for yourself. You can share it with me if you want, but I really want you to answer this for yourself. What would it be worth for you to have all of these things? To know all of these things, to be all of these things. And knowing what it's worth for you, why would you put that off? Why would you put off knowing how to manage your own stress? If you're waiting for a less hectic time of life, maybe now is why you need it. Maybe that's exactly why you need this now, so that you can better get through this hectic time of life, whatever it is that you're going through, right? So that you can make it through this time of life with more grace, with more joy, with more peace. Maybe you need that peace more now than ever. Maybe you owe it to yourself to receive this kind of support, to receive this kind of guidance, so that by the time you come out on whatever you imagine to be the other side, you're already in that state. Because however you are handling your life right now, if you're in a place of life that feels crazy and chaotic, however you're managing that now is also how you're going to be managing your life when you come to the quote unquote other side. So what if you changed that narrative now? What if you started to enjoy it now, so that when you are to that quote unquote other side, you're already enjoying life and it gets to be just that much better when you're already there, because you already know how to step into that peace, how to step into that joy. Because whatever state of being is your default is still going to be your default state when your life circumstances change. So if you don't want to be in a default state of stress and burnout and anxiety, then you need to do something about it now. You don't need to wait on that. So again, I know most people are catching the replay, but if there are any questions about anything that we have covered this week, whether it's about the mastermind, whether it's about breath work, whether it's about human design or the subconscious mind or the physical body, anything, literally, or any of the random rabbit holes that we've gone through, drop them in the comments and I will be more than happy to answer. You could also, if you're kind of shy to ask a question publicly, you can always DM me, you can always email me, okay? But there is a lot to be said for having the vulnerability to ask your questions where they can be witnessed by more people, because not only will it be witnessed by more people and have that space held for you by more people, more people will also benefit from your question, because you would probably be surprised how many people also want that answer, even if they didn't know that they had that question. And that's part of like, so like for me, I have undefined head, open ajna, and sometimes I don't pick up on any questions ever. Not ever, but sometimes I'll be in a moment where someone will say, what questions does everyone have? I'm like, I don't know. I feel like there's questions out there, but I don't know. I don't know. But then other people will ask questions. I'm like, oh yeah, that, I want to know that too. Yes, oh that, oh, I could definitely benefit from learning about that, right? So this is always a safe space. And this is why I love doing the mastermind as a group container, because there's just so much to all be learned from. We all get to learn from each other. Bree says, I'm the same, right? It's so funny, because some people who have an open mind, open ajna, you know, the open head and open ajna both together creates an open mind, right? Some people who are like that pick up on all the questions all the time, and they are constantly like spouting out all the questions. I tend to be like, I don't even know what I don't know. And part of that has to do with my variables as well, but that's a whole other rabbit hole. Anyways, feel free to ask any questions. And also, if the mastermind is something that you're contemplating, but you don't feel like now is the right time, first of all, my timing is not your timing. So your inner authority gets to be the determining factor here. If you still want to ask your questions, even if you don't feel like now is the right time, I am never going to try to sell to you when you're not ready to be sold to. You know, like if you're just wanting to get some answers for future, like say you have an emotional authority, you want to get some questions answered now so that you have that information to help you make that decision for the next round, baby. Email me. Let's set up a little free little Vox or chat. We can set up a little Zoom call like this, or we can just correspond via email or in the DMs, whatever feels really supportive for you. I am very much an advocate of giving you all the information that you need to make a very aligned and supported decision. Okay, so just wanted to clarify that. I am never going to try to convince you to do something that's not right for you. Okay, I know that there are some people out there who they just really are, they're really certain that everyone needs their offer right now, and I just don't believe that. I do believe that most people would benefit from what I am offering here, but I also know that I can never know your timing for you. So just know I hold a safe space for you as you come to me to ask your questions, or even to just voice. Sometimes maybe you just need to voice out your thoughts as you go through this decision-making process. I am a really, really good sounding board. So there's also that. Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up so I can go feed this cute little dude. And my inbox is open, this group is open, and I love you all. I'll talk to you later.